Hello and welcome to the Crypto Beat. My name is Kelvin Sparks. This is my co-host Tim Copeland, head of growth at the Block. Joining us today, we have Serpin Taxt, founder of Ethos Network. Welcome to the show. How are y'all doing?
All good.
Doing great.
Nice. Before we dive in, here's a quick word from our sponsors. It's a new chapter for crypto and digital assets. Institutions are flooding in, regulators are defining clear pathways, and capital is moving at warp speed. Are you ready to level up? Campus is the digital gold standard in crypto education presented by LMAX Digital. Master the skills you need to thrive in this new crypto era. Head to theblock.co/campus to get started. All right, without further ado, let's get into today's episode. How can we better identify bots versus real humans online? Tim, I know that you're the social media guru out of the two of us, so I'll kick it over to you to start this conversation off, man.
I've definitely spent too much time in my life on X. So, and unsurprisingly, I'm asking questions I already know the answer to. But how big is the bot problem on X?
I mean, how is it not the biggest problem X has right now, right? Like, I was thinking about it the other day even when I'm posting sometimes, I'm worried other people think I'm a bot. And you're like, it's gotten to the point where we have self-doubt about our own authorship, because every comment that I get on my tweets, I'm sure on you guys' tweets, you were questioning too. And I'd say that's a pretty big problem when it comes to trust with X right now.
Yeah, the thing I don't like most about it is when I see people reply to my post, I'm like, I don't know if they're real or not. And the risk that you reply to them and then someone goes, you're just replying to a bot, it just seems kind of embarrassing. So it's like, I feel like, it's kind of ruined Twitter a little bit in that way. And so Nikita Beer stopped InfoFi projects from posting on X. Did that fix the issue, or would you say it's still ongoing?
Yeah, I mean, it still seems like it's ongoing, right? I kind of look up sometimes and you still, even on my own posts, again, I would say like, I think at least 60 or 70% of the replies to my posts are slop. I guess even without incentive, without the crypto incentive, people are still incentivized for some reason. I actually think it has a lot to do with X's own incentive program where, you get to 5 million, whatever their stats are, you can basically unlock getting paid from X directly. And so it incentivizes people to go post and get more following. And even when they remove the crypto incentives, it seems like the bots are still around. Maybe X's own fault.
Understood. And I'm curious, what role do you think AI plays in this slop super cycle?
Yeah, I mean, this is the most interesting part. If you think about the last 3 weeks with OpenClaw, everyone has this ability to now go read from Twitter without using their API. You have a little agent on a Mac Mini running and potentially replying to people too. The ability to write automation, there used to be a really big barrier of entry to do that. And now anyone with a little bit of prompting to Claude can go write their own bot. And this is a really big problem, I think, generally, because that means the number of agents, the number of bots out there can basically scale way more than humans could scale. And we will be outnumbered very quickly now that barrier of entry is so low with being able to write your own agent or bot.
Understood. And I know Tim is a very, very harsh critic of AI writing. You could go to his page and see all the his input there. But I guess I'm kind of the belief, maybe it's like the iPad generation kid in me, that there's a mix of AI content as well as like human authentic content that people actually do want to be served. So I'm curious how you think about that and how you're building ethos around maybe that mix of content people want to see.
It's a really tough one, right? Like, what does it mean to have AI as a part of your output? If you're a person that's out there and just writing tons of tweets and replies using agents, just trying to get some sort of engagement from someone, that obviously feels a little worse than, hey, I wrote this article, I used AI to give me some tips up front. Maybe I still wrote it, but then I had AI proofread it. Like, what does it really mean for something to be AI generated, I think is going to start getting murkier. And to be honest, what it boils down to me is reputation. And that's what we've always been about. How do you quantify what reputation means for a particular person? And it's not just are they human or are they agent, but it also has to do with how do other people perceive them. And so when you see someone, slop replying or just, writing articles that are 100% slop filled, you can imagine in your mind, you probably kind of dock them for it a little bit. Well, imagine if you had a way to kind of publicly state that, and then we all had a way to kind of evaluate, oh yeah, this guy's, he might be AI generated everything versus this other guy might be more nuanced in how he uses AI, and everyone's okay with that. So I think reputation is, to be honest, the really missing component there.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with it is I think obviously AI super powerful. There's use cases people should be using it, but it's just they have certain language elements that are just baked in at a very core programming level.
Right.
And I remember once when I was using ChatGPT and I was just like, stop using M dashes, but then it kept using them. And I was like, why do you keep using them? And it was like, because it has certain language ground rules that it can't very easily escape from. And this is why, especially like if you're a bit of a if you're a linguist, you notice a lot of like the sort of repetitive patterns and things like that.
Right.
And it just infuriates me because I'm seeing it everywhere, like from marketing emails.
But why do you think it infuriates you,
everything.
right? Is it because it's like laziness, or it implies laziness, or that they didn't put like hard craftsmanship and authorship into it?
I think it's like, let's say you've used AI to write something and I can't tell. I would probably see in my head, I'm like, okay, I feel like a human's written that. But the moment I can see this was written by AI, my brain almost switches off. It's like, well, I don't know if you've written it and asked it to like tweak your writing, or if you've just said, write me an essay on this. And it's just some sort of generic.
You didn't even
thing that
proofread
would
it.
give to
You just
anyone.
like sent it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that I don't know that I just sort of assume, well, I can't know for sure that it's just a genuine human thought. So it's probably just a waste of my time to read this.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
go ahead.
okay. I was just kind of curious then. So, Tim, do you want to be fooled by this almost like this like Turing test in a sense? Because AI is increasingly going to be part of our lives. I don't see it ramping down now. So, yeah, just curious what your thoughts are if you know everything's going to be AI driven in the future.
It's an interesting one. I guess I don't particularly want to be fooled if they've just sort of said, write me an essay on this, and it's just written the whole thing. I think once we get to that point, you kind of have a lot of questions about the value of everyone in terms of like work-wise. If anything, let's say if everyone used AI to write all their tweets, I think that might kind of kill Twitter. Like it just becomes kind of, what are we doing here? But at the same time, it's just more. It just really bugs me when I see the really obvious elements that just scream this is AI written. Like I find it really weird in Slack. Like when a colleague pastes an AI written message, and it would have like bolded text words, and it would be like, it's not X, it's Y.
Hey, you can't be airing me out, man. We're live, Tim. You gotta chill.
I have to. Too many. Yeah, and it just I don't know. And then when you look into it, often you can find, wait, this doesn't, if I look into it with a microscope, this doesn't actually make sense. Yeah, I don't know.
Understood. So maybe I guess Serpin kind of to tee you up for this one. How has AI changed how we actually think about credibility? Because I think that's kind of underlying Tim's point here.
Yeah, I mean, I think credibility is going through its own evaluation right now, right? To what Tim's talking about, you might look at someone, we're all kind of evaluating each other differently based on AI usage. And to be honest, I think a lot of it boils down to like, did you like authentically send this thing to me? Did you really put a lot of genuine thought into something versus, oh no, I just used ChatGPT or Claude to write it? That is one little minute but important credibility factor that we're seeing change right now. That's something that people are really looking at. And even with the ad that we put out yesterday, I generated it entirely with AI. And we got some interesting comments. People like, this is really weird. You're like advocating for human verification, and like you used AI to generate everything. And so I think we're all kind of changing how we evaluate that credibility. It's obviously a supernatural thing to happen. You look at what happened, in the 1930s, they were drawing everything out when it came to animation. And then later in the 80s and 90s, you had computer animation. Well, what do you think the instant reaction was from the people that spent 40 years actually drawing animation out? It's just an adaptation that we all have to kind of take on, and it can be difficult because during those times that evaluation of credibility really changes. And I think that that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing people look at each other differently a little bit based on how they are using it and how authentic they come off.
Yeah. One thing, and I can't remember where I read this or whatever, but I read it recently and it seems relevant. People point out that like we have chess engines that can play chess
Mhm.
almost perfect play, if not perfect play. Yet people would rather watch Magnus Carlsen play chess,
Right.
who obviously, does near perfect play, but like in theory, AI engines are better. Why do we
Mhm.
not watch them if they played this sort of perfect game? Because actually, it's more interesting watching a human play, human who's very good at the game, than an AI that might be perfect, but it's somehow less interesting. And I feel
Mhm.
like that kind of draws to the heart of it. Like, why do we find it more interesting to see a human fail and succeed than a
Mhm.
bot play perfectly?
Yeah, exactly to your written point, right? Like you would much rather have someone write you an authentic message than, oh, I just like sent this to 100 people, right? Like it just there's the human element is going to be the thing that I think is going to really matter in the next few years when we think about how humans relate to agents or how humans use AI to enhance their workflows. Like that human part is still going to be really important. I think the chess analogy is really good.
So I was kind of curious in that sense, like with an increasingly, we'll say, dead internet, just going off of the
Mhm.
ad that you brought up, like what sent you down this path to build Ethos?
Yeah, I mean, originally, and I still firmly believe this, the crypto world that we live in is largely the Wild West. Like, we don't really have accountability. It's very common for people to rug pull or slow rug projects or raise a bunch of money and maybe not deliver on those things. And I really was originally very focused on how do we bring crypto to a modern state of nature? How do we go from the 1890s to today? And a lot of that just has to do with like social constructs. But we have the blockchain. So what if we could leverage the blockchain and add things like social cues? I trust Tem, Tem trusts me. Put it on the blockchain, allow people to go observe that, and then we create a credibility score out of it. But you might look at it qualitatively and try to grok your own info out of it. And so this all boils down to originally this idea of like, how do you on the internet understand who is reputable and who isn't? And we primarily targeted crypto because, to be honest, that's where the biggest problem is right now. Like, we can hide behind pseudonyms and that's okay. You should be able to build reputation behind pseudonyms, but also that's like the sword cuts both ways, right? That is actually the biggest risk to crypto in a lot of ways, is that we don't know enough about each other.
And was there anything early on that kind of like frustrated or pissed you off about the whole bots engaging in, we'll say, crypto Twitter, for example?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think it that one more comes down to like my personal usage of Twitter and like just using it myself and writing something. And like, yeah, at first you can get kind of sucked into like, well, people are really engaging. And it just gets kind of frustrating sometimes when you're like, I just don't know if people are authentically engaging. I don't know how to evaluate when I'm looking at another project if people are authentically engaging anymore. And so I think that like credibility has been muddied by the agent responses. It just makes it harder to read right now. And so whether it's you yourself looking at your own Twitter or trying to evaluate someone else's, it's just really challenging to understand like where the authenticity is coming from.
All right. So, do you want to tell us? You made a big announcement yesterday.
Mhm.
What are you doing to solve the bot problem?
Yeah, so one of the big things that we've been thinking about, and when we have this reputation score, right? Everyone has a reputation score. It's driven primarily by social signals. I trust you, you trust me. Maybe you put money against that statement. Maybe you get slashed because you did something that stepped out of line. We've had a protocol for about a year now that is proving to work pretty well in terms of social consensus. when we go to partners and we talk to other businesses in the space, and we help them identify credible users, we help them qualify leads. One of the biggest problems that we often hear is just simply understanding, are you human or aren't you? And the problem is obviously rapidly accelerating. We talked a little bit earlier about OpenCall and some of the ability for everyone to basically do this now. And we are just kind of rapidly approaching this problem space of really not knowing who is human and who isn't. And there have been other approaches that have tried to solve this in the past. You have, well, how does a business solve it? Like Coinbase, they KYC, right? They have to know their customer. This is a government regulation. They have to know who you are. You have to give them government documents. You have to hold up your passport or your driver's license. You have to scan your face. Like that is the extreme degree of knowing who is on the other end of a crypto transaction. The middle ground is more what WorldCoin has done, Humanity Protocol, Billions now. There's a bunch of other people that are kind of building these products that look at biometric information. They're more on the like trying to prove your uniqueness as a human, but also your liveliness, things like that. But that doesn't feel very cypherpunk to me. That doesn't feel like where we are, where we come from when it comes to crypto in protecting our own biometric data, our own privacy. Think back to last year when there's some big names that got doxxed, like holding up their IDs, giving it over to KYC providers, right? And those images leaked on the internet. And we wanted to build something that was more based on people cooperating with each other, what Ethos has been great at so far. And so me and Tem and Kelvin, you guys, right now, we're on a video chat. I can attest that you are both human, right? We don't have to sit there and scan our eyeballs. We can just coordinate together and all agree that each other are human. Now, there are risks to doing this, but we believe that there is basically a privacy enhancing way to prove human being a human without revealing any of your personal information. That's what we've built.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know one of the things that I saw yesterday on Twitter was like a video of a guy put a smiley face on his finger and did the liveliness checks and
Mhm.
whatnot. So, can you speak to more or less like I'd say the human like vouching side of things and how important
Mhm.
that is, especially given we don't know who's like a deep fake pretending to be someone else on the internet versus just an AI lying to get through some kind of security?
Yeah, and this is one of the harder parts. And I have a really nuanced take here on how we solve this because the challenge that I'm seeing right now, again, is going to be that the agents and bots will be able to infinitely replicate themselves. If you and I cannot replace our humanness and clone ourselves 14 times, right? On the internet, as it becomes easier to sign up, create accounts, which it already is, it will become increasingly more noise in the equation. And our goal is to identify where signal is. So, where are the humans actually? Now, it's not going to be perfect. There will be people that make and identify someone that has multiple accounts as human. There will be people that identify an agent as being human because they went through and talked to a VTuber or something. The goal is not preventing it, it is making it extremely difficult to fake, basically. And so, ethos and the reputation side of things is already incredibly difficult to fake. You really need social cues, you need coordination, you need people to agree that you are a reputable person. But on this side, it's going to be like if you think about like today you can create 1,000 wallets like that, especially with Claude Code. Well, do that again with KYC, without KYC, with human verification on Ethos. Well, you need 3 people to verify that you're human, and you have to do that 1,000 times. You're talking about time, you're talking about social capital, and you're talking about actual capital that comes into play there. And so our goal is basically make that really expensive so we can identify where the signal is and just ignore the noise, if that makes sense.
Okay, so my question here is like similar to what you've been facing with the bot problem just
Mhm.
before all of this. Let's say I have a bunch of Twitter accounts. I use, Clawbot with different personalities for each of them, a lot of history. I
Mhm.
vouch for one of them, he vouches for the next guy, and you end up with a network of loads of people vouching for each other. They're
Mhm.
all bots, except maybe there's like a few real people in there.
Mhm.
How do you know, like, judging by your system, that would come
Mhm.
through as, oh, these are all real people because they've got enough vouchers.
Mhm.
Like, how do you know they're not real?
Not really. Yeah, it's interesting because the question, how do you know they're not human, or how do you know they're an agent? Which is interesting, and I'm not saying I want you to change the question, but like it's a difficult one to pose correctly. Like, if you're not human, what does that mean you are? Well, if you're explicitly an agent, it's a little bit easier. But if you're not human, it kind of probably means, in crypto at least, that you're a Sybil account or you're a multi account. And that's kind of one of the big things that we're trying to prevent, right? So far in Ethos, this has happened. We've built a system that's been out for 14 months now, and people have attacked it, right? They're not unique humans, and they've tried to find ways to create, 30 accounts for themselves. They all review each other. They all they don't really vouch for each other, because the economic security is a pretty good defense against this. The biggest thing that we do is we create risk. And so by supporting someone or by verifying someone as human, you take risk to your own credibility. And this is the kind of flywheel of Ethos: is if you can get people to care about their Ethos score, then as they are verifying or vouching for other people, they're more cognizant and careful with who they vouch for. And therefore, it becomes more difficult to create these social graphs of clusters of fake accounts. Now, thus far, we've had plenty of Sybil accounts, clustering of people, get called out either by me and the team or through our bounty system, where people are going and identifying and saying, no, look, this one account, it had transactions coming from these 14 different places that all kind of result to the same. Oh, and if you search on Twitter for the ETH address that they're talking about, there are like 10 different Twitter accounts that are using it to enter raffles. And so it's not easy. It's not going to be trivial. But again, the goal is more identifying where the signal is, removing that signal when it's like bad. But by getting rid of the 99% of noise, you have basically significantly helped solve the problem in the first place. That is like the last 1% of the problem that we have to solve, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
but there's a cost for vouching for people, right? So let's say we each vouch for each other.
Mhm.
We put like, I don't know, $20,
Mhm.
vouch for each other. Let's say if you're getting all of the people that you're trying to prove are real, which I assume is, I don't know, 5 or 10,000 people on CT, for
Mhm.
instance,
Mhm.
that's a lot of money that just has to be sort of locked up purely just to
Mm.
sort of vouch for each other. Is that like a kind of a negative part of this? I understand that might be how it works, but is that kind of
Yeah.
a
What
annoying cost?
It's important to kind of differentiate here, because human verification, what we launched yesterday, does not have a cost. It has a cost through our XP system, so our contributors, basically. They can request human verification. It doesn't actually cost real dollars. But vouching is an important part of the reputation system overall, and it's how people build up that reputation score. And yeah, I think there's an interesting pushback on, is that the best capital efficiency? Is that the best way to lock money away? And well, today it's not, because we don't offer any sort of yield on it. And in fact, there's a fee on it. I believe that in the future, we can get to a place where it's similar to, you look at your bank account and you're like, I would guarantee $25,000 against this person's name, or $25 against this person's name, and it would still be able to earn and give you all the same benefits that it would otherwise achieve by being in your bank account. But it has, some potential risk. You could get slashed. You could be liable to lose a certain amount of that money. And so, to hopefully answer your question, it's not the best use of capital efficiency right now. But we will get to a point, I believe, where there's a desire to support each other and help identify who the real actors are. And you can earn something on top of that in form of standard DeFi yield, that it's a no-brainer to do so. VCs would do it for their different projects. They want them to appear credible. They show that. Or people cooperating on the internet, just wanting to support each other, happy to do it for each other as well. But it's a risk. You're right.
One of the things I was curious about, as you spoke to some of these maybe like edge case types of users on the
Mhm.
internet, could you expound upon maybe what role, we'll say, sock puppet accounts will play in the future of the
Mm.
internet, as well as people who maybe are a bit shy and don't necessarily want to engage that much via social media, even though it's being increasingly integrated into our daily lives.
What do you mean by sock puppet accounts? Actually, I'm not familiar with that term.
So it's like almost like these BS accounts, almost like burners that
The
people will tweet
parodies and
from. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But they'll
Mhm,
only have like 5 followers. They're almost like synonymous with bots, but these
mhm.
are actually real people behind. We do it just to like shit posts, from
I
what I
I
understand.
think the difference is more like, let's say I spin up 9 other accounts. Now
Mhm,
I've sort of got all these accounts that can amplify what
Right.
I'm saying, or like if I'm a KOL, I'll post the same sort of ad on all of these accounts. So
mhm.
it's sort of kind of a bit like a puppet master
Yeah.
I see. Yeah,
going
this is
on.
what Nikita called out earlier this week, right? He said that there was one guy running 26 accounts. They all had like Azuki looking PFPs. And to be honest, again, I always think about things in terms of cost. So with Ethos, yeah, you could create that Sybil farm of 26 accounts. They all review each other, they all support each other, they all say each other is human. But right now, it is really easy to identify that because they only support each other. That you can see these clusterings of social graphs that start to emerge that are much more obvious than them just being on Twitter and promoting each other. And so in lieu of basically having those social connections, other people like Tem being like, no, this is a real guy. He's running a real account. Or people like me being like, no, this is a real person. Like you start to ignore those things more and give more value to the people that do have that credibility and do have that reputation.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm curious what role Bob Lax plays in this future, given he's the man with an insane amount of alts. But I do want to take a quick pause before we get into that and just read a message from our sponsor. So this year, we're excited to be media partners with ECC, taking place March 30th to April 2nd in Cannes. So new for 2026 is the Agora, ECC's official institutional forum. It brings together some of the most influential voices in digital assets and traditional finance for open, rigorous debate on the future financial markets. The Agora is unsponsored by design, creating space for honest, bias free conversations you don't usually hear on stage. So grab a ticket and we'll see you there on the ground soon. That being said, we are giving away one last free ticket this episode. It should be on screen. I can't see it right now, but if you use code the block free 100 AX2, that's all caps, the block free 100 AX2, and you'll be able to claim a free ticket. Thanks, and we'll see you soon. Okay. So now that we got the ad read out of the way, I guess one of the things that I was thinking about is what about these people who have insane amounts of social capital, but
Mhm.
do tend to be, how do I say, like a gorilla in their marketing of what they're talking about on CT? I mean, Bob Lax is a famous guy for that. And I think without that lore, without him being able to spin up this guy for the, like 1,000 alts, like how do folks like that almost make their way through the social fabric of tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, this one's really interesting, right? Like, if you take someone who's on an anon account and like the public values them almost because they are a burner or because they are an anon account, it makes it really tricky. Like, there's a bunch of like what's the right way to call them, like accounts that come to mind that I think of that they'll often report things ahead of time or they'll often have some sort of insider information. And I still think that it's possible for the public today on Ethos to go identify like, actually, this is a credible source of information. Like, they might be posting stupid stuff sometimes, but like they're usually right on things. They usually, they got some of these key moments right, and when some certain things fell down in crypto. But I don't think it will be as easy to do that in the future because you are going to get diluted with all the other agents that kind of look the same. And to be honest, I've never understood how these accounts really work other than they say something and they're right. And then people can go back and look at it and like, well, maybe I will follow this person, because I don't know how they ever get the initial following, to be honest. Like, that is like the cold start problem of starting a new account on Twitter. It's not easy. I do think it will get harder because there's so much more competition from agents. So,
So I'm curious then, what role do you think ethos plays in the future of virality and how things go viral? Because at some level,
mm,
a dampener on these things can be very, very good, but attention spans are also getting a lot shorter. So the second people see something that even looks like signal, they automatically, or most
mhm.
times, I would expect them to flock to it.
This one is super fascinating to think about because virality often doesn't really include reputation in its equation. When you think about what happened with Twitter 10 years ago, even, and Facebook, and people using bots back then, right, to like push political agendas. We started to see things like community notes. Community notes have started appearing on X. Now I saw them on Instagram the other day. You're like, it's a good feature though, right? Like, the reason is because the most viral content is often like inaccurate or satirical content. It's the thing that makes you go, what? Are you kidding me? And you hit retweet and you hit like, and if you don't really care about your own reputation, you're happy to promote those things. And you're more likely to believe them probably too. It will be interesting to see how that changes, because it like speaking totally personally, it drives me kind of crazy sometimes to see some of the viral posts that you're like, this is literally fake. Like, this is 100% fake news. Why is this getting attention? Why would they get rewarded by X for getting, 5 million impressions on it when it was completely fabricated? I would like to think that we will get to a point where that reputation is considered more deeply, maybe not in like how viral something can be, but when you're looking at a piece of content, you can say, oh, I understand more quickly without needing community notes. This is coming from an account that like has a bunch of negative reviews, or has a bunch of people that are like, yeah, this guy only posts. Like, a good example is like the Doomer account. You have Zoomer and then you have Doomer, and the
Yeah.
Doomer account will post all kinds of fake news, and it catches people every single time, right? And like, I don't think that's bad. It's entertainment. So it's interesting. It's funny. But they do need the satirical badge. And even with our Ethos Chrome extension, you can see they have a questionable tag on them because, by their peers, they have a bunch of negative reviews.
Yeah. One thing I wondered about with your new system, if you're sort of identifying these people are human, can I get, maybe with get a version of X where I
Mhm.
only see posts from verified human?
Yeah, so we've actually experimented with this before we had human verification with just the Chrome. And so in X with our Chrome extension, we had this like sliding thing. Like, I just want to mute everyone below a certain ethos score. And it worked pretty well in some cases. But then you do want to see SBF's tweets from prison sometimes. And he's rated untrusted, so he would disappear. So it's a little bit tricky to pull it off perfectly. I do I personally, as like a technologist, am very curious to see what happens to social media, if X will be able to adapt to allow maybe Ethos to help with some of that, or have their own system of preventing that or verifying users, or if it will be a brand new social media product that comes that is like, no, we're humans only from the start. Uh, there are, I think, products in this space right now. It's very hard to do. It's really difficult to create a new social media app, obviously. The human allure of like, it's just humans there is enough to make and stand on its own. I'm not sure.
Reverse mode book or something like that.
Yeah. Reverse mode book.
Yeah, I think it's a bit different because with the ethos score, look, someone might be untrustworthy, but they might have
Mhm.
banger tweets.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas if I humans,
Mhm.
I'm getting all of the humans and the good tweets. So I do think maybe more effective. So you're still getting the good stuff of Twitter,
Yep.
although the flip, I suddenly realize you have no genuine replies and
Mhm.
you're
And then get
basically
sad about it.
investigation.
Yeah. Answer your question. We don't have a filter yet for just humans on the Ethos Chrome extension, but that's a very easy thing for us to add. There's only 45 verified humans on Ethos right now. We're trying to dig really small, learn how it works. But I do want to get to a point where like people don't actually trust verification. Like, I could just sit here and say, I'm going to verify both of you guys as human because we have that together. You're human. And that's where I think that scale will come into play, and then people will build that benefit.
So as it gets increasingly hard for people to actually gain like legitimate followers and whatnot,
Mhm.
it seems like we're moving towards like a bifurcated society where there's these
Mhm.
people who have a ton of clout, reputable, I guess, information online, as well as maybe people who aren't as like internet native and are very people, but don't necessarily care for the internet per se and
Mhm.
all the banter and discourse on there. So, do you think that's a problem, or how do you even view that, if that's even a
I think what will happen personally is that we will fragment further down that we have today. Like if you think about all social media, it is very catered to whatever niche you are in. Like your Instagram reels are going to look entirely different from Instagram reels, and that's because users really want that like niche content served to them. What I think will happen is if I think that agents in particular and people using agents will be able to generate even more niche specific content, and it will probably push us more towards tribalism than unity in the grand of things, just because it'll be so easy to create that content, and like you said, it will even more between like, oh, I'm a native CT person, I talk and operate and about these things, versus like I'm on TradFi Twitter and I have a picture of kind of thing. I mean, we already have that, but I think it will probably, I suspect it will probably go further down than it is today.
Understood. And with that, since one of the reasons I found very, very hilarious in the early days was just because the tribalism and the infighting, call it what you will. But with that being said, I'm curious now, like what or how large of is community in crypto and on the
Oh
internet these days?
man, you know what's really interesting? How brands over the past 5 years really lean into this idea of community, right? Like completely outside of crypto. If like I'm running, a makeup brand and I'm going to build an app, and we want these people in the app, and we want these people to be a part of the community. We'll have meetups, and you have things like running clubs. Nike hosts them, and like community is a big part. I think a lot of people will believe the next generation of people will really care about. But that seems very diluted last 2 years in crypto. Like we've gone to this place where like no one really knows what community means. And to be honest, I think a big part of the problem is like we just attracted so many industrialized farmers, so many people that are like, I'm just here to say, you know, whatever the project name is in a Discord every day and hope that I get an airdrop. That the It's harder for people to buy into a long-term vision when it community around you is a bunch of airdrop farmers. And if you can't align to the long term, like go back to the Bitcoin talk days. Like you're talking about 15 years ago, even some of the Reddits that were around early on, like these people believed in what they were talking about, believed in Bitcoin. They believed in the early days of Ethereum, and the community you want to build believe in your product, but that belief seems to be missing the past couple of years.
Oh yeah, to your point, I remember the R Bitcoin, R BTC on Reddit fighting days. It was pretty funny to watch. But I'm curious, what do we need to do to return to something in that case, and
Mm.
what role does Ethos play in that?
This one's interesting. Like, I think one of the big things that Ethos does and helps businesses do is qualify users. And it's really interesting in Web3. We build these businesses where they are inherently targeting international, and it's very difficult to qualify any of them. Like as any startup, your goal is you narrowly focus on a niche or a group or an addressable market, and your goal is I want to dominate the market. Right? I worked for a company that was like, we only want to target US based customers. Like we know we could do global, but we only want to target US based customers. And sometimes challenging in Web3 when you're just inherently a global product. You don't know how to qualify. How do you even say, well, this person has just shown up because they want to farm something, or this person ultimately believes in what we're doing. They have skin in the game. Maybe they invest go around. Like you want people to believe in something, but it's difficult to know even target to do that. How do you even advertise to a person that you think will be long-term aligned with your project? And so I do think Ethos helps in terms of kind of identifying where that signal is, the users that you should be wanting to target, the protocol just getting started, because it helps you sort that signal from the noise. I do think that can help overall with the belief, but I also have the belief that like a lot of the that have come out over the past 2 years are kind of hard to believe in. There's not a lot of like, okay, we get faster transactions. Sounds great. Like your belief is actually driven speculation, and when speculation isn't printing money right now, it'd be hard to test those beliefs. And so I think that's the other side of it that should be considered in crypto to a more belief-driven society.
Banger.
Yeah, it definitely seems like people have lost faith. I think
Mhm.
you sort of. I remember. I think it was the Gem days
Mhm.
when
Mhm.
there was that chart, which was sort of like go up, people believe in it. It like I don't know if it like created more tokens or something, and then price go up more and more people believe in it, and it was this sort
Mhm.
of like fly, some sort of made it go up really fast and then collapsed really
Mhm.
fast. But there is a little bit of that in crypto. If people stop believing, then they just stop buying the tokens. If stop buying the token down, and then
You don't have anything to believe in anymore. Yeah.
definitely a flywheel effect.
Mhm.
I have one final question on the human verification, and my real
Mhm.
question was, how do you prove someone isn't a human? So let's say
Mhm.
I've spun up a second account and I just have like a bot running it. Looks pretty
Mhm.
legit. Not part of a big network. I vouched for it, and someone goes, "I'm
Mhm.
going to like this account,"
Mhm.
or maybe they wouldn't slash it because they wouldn't have any reason to. But let's say they, how would
Mhm.
they prove this person's not real? Because I think that's proving someone's not real, like proving a negative and proving
Yeah.
alternative.
100%. I mean, that's why, yeah, we've always had this negativa in our mind as we talk about things, because it really is about identifying the signal. You can get rid of the noise by only focusing on the signal. And so, like, let's say that in your example, you human verified yourself as Tem, and then you have this other Mitt or something that your name backwards that you verified as well. Like, it depends on how consensus thinks about it. So we try not to be super prescriptive with the tools. When you talk about slashing, we try to say you really should have a reason to slash someone, right? Like that seems obvious. Well, in this case, I think the whole point is that it requires social consensus to successfully slash that person. And so you 10 were LARPing on this burner account as a real person, had an agent going on it. Maybe you were just trying to get more traffic. You're promoting stuff that you have on the thing there. And people really felt like that stepped out of line. It's less about is Mitt a real person or not, or have they stepped out of line in some way? And to me, that can look like you verified yourself as a human multiple times. Have to be the case. It could be like, hey, this guy's like using an agent to like write a bunch of tweets, right? And he said it was a real person and it's not. It's not about the primary definition to me of like who is or isn't human when it comes to disprove that someone trying to prove that someone isn't human. It's social consensus believe about it. And so like the last part that I'll add there is I can't answer your question perfectly because we don't know yet. Everything with Ethos is a way for us to learn how society thinks about these things. And so that first time someone gets for potentially not being human, that's when we have to go take a step back and be like, is the right outcome? Did this work correctly? Or did anyone ever slash anyone for not being human because they felt like they had enough proof? So trying to act a little bit, have a little bit of humility in the conversation of like, I don't know how to perfectly answer it yet either.
Yeah, maybe in the next episode, because we are approaching almost the 30-minute mark. What does it mean to be human? That was like a really, really
There you
funny
go.
one to add, but I don't want to open a full another can of worms. So that's all the time we have for today. Serpin, thank you for joining us this episode. Our newsroom works tirelessly to get you accurate, informed crypto news. If you want to stay ahead, read the blog. Thanks. See you next time.